Hey everybody, welcome to today's lesson in the key of D. I've had the request to how do we take all this stuff and start making fills behind vocals. So again, I think it's kind of a nice step prior to playing hot breaks, hot solos all by yourself is just being able to back up singers. And one of the requests was for backup for Victory in Jesus. So I found this real nice version of Carrie Underwood singing it. You heard me play it there at the beginning. And essentially, filling behind vocals, you just, you don't want to get in the way. Sometimes what feels good to play doesn't actually sound that good when you're listening from the other side. I learned this the hard way as a drummer. I used to be like, that sounds so cool. And I'd always be playing these, fills behind everybody. And then when I went to listen to the recording, I was like, oh, that it feels good to play it. It doesn't necessarily sound good. So think when you're playing fills behind vocalists that you're there to support them, and so you're waiting for those pauses, those natural kind of breaks as they finish a line. You want to just play a little bit. It doesn't have to lead completely into their next line. It doesn't have to fill the entire thing. If they're singing like a long held out note, that might be an opportunity to sort of play some stuff. So first off, just try to recognize in a song when it's appropriate to do that. Sometimes in a band setting, you want to say, hey, fiddle player, you fill in verse 1, and then we'll sing the chorus, and I'll do the fills on mandolin in verse 2, or vice versa, right? So you're not playing fills on top of fills. Those are all good things to consider. And then record it and go back and listen. But to get into the nitty gritty, essentially, I picked this, this was a good request of a tune because it's in the key of D and not a ton of chords. If you'd like to see the tablature of this, I invite you over to patreon.com/MyBluegrassRomance. I've got this as well as all my lessons, the tablature for that. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just waiting for Ms. Underwood to sing her first line, and then I just play a real simple right? Pretty simple there. It doesn't have to be fancy. She sings another line, and then I play a similar phrase right here. Again, it's a similar phrase. And then I kind of wait a little bit longer. She sings kind of a more laid out phrase, and I wait a couple extra measures, and then I play this very bluegrassy kind of a fill. That 3/4 slide I could go, or I can play, right? The difference being picking both of those down up, then down verses, one down stroke and a slide, and then the down. And then she sings another phrase, and this time I play, and I end on that G note because it's the beginning of a G chord in the song, so you hear that little difference. And she sings one more phrase, and you're back to the D chord with a, and I kind of end up here, and then she sings one more to the end, and I play, and all these fills are kind of, in a very kind of bluegrassy vein, but they all kind of sound nice in the song. Let me play it one more time. I'll do this actually just to show you something. She sings over slightly different chords in the chorus, but you can play the same licks actually. Well, let me rewind it a little bit as she winds up into the chorus. Now, one other thing I want to say is when I'm playing fills, what I don't try to do is play chords or chop in between. I used to actually try to do that and think, well, I've got to, fill in that space, right, where she's singing this long vocal. I'm not playing any rhythm. But the reality is like, again, in a band setting, if you've got drums, if you've got another mandolin, a rhythm guitar player, bass player, right, there's other stuff going on. And so when you play chop, when you're playing rhythm, focus on rhythm. When you're doing fills, I would just sort of like do exactly what I'm doing in this video. I just kind of chill out. I might play like, and kind of keep a little, just very quietly to keep myself in time. Right? And I'm just kind of swelling when I go to play those fills. If this is difficult, I invite you back to watch the other videos I've got out there in the key of D, because all of the scales, the scale variations, the arpeggios, they all kind of lend themselves to finding the fingerings that you find when you do play fills. Like, it's actually difficult for me to try to play these exactly the same way every time, because I'm so used to playing all these different scales and variations that it's taught me to just sort of like play very freely and independently. But again, learn these ones, learn some scales in those other videos and some arpeggios, and see what you might come up with. Get online and look up Carrie Underwood's version of Victory in Jesus with her band. It's very good, and you can always use the tools in YouTube to kind of slow it down if it's difficult to play. I think it's at a good tempo. But anyway, I hope you have fun with it, and I hope that these videos are helpful for your mandolin picking. Thanks for tuning in.